Welcome, everybody, tonight. I call to order a regular scheduled Board of Commissioners meeting. First item on our agenda is our invocation and our pledge of allegiance. I've asked Gabe Briley, Solid Waste Sanitation Superintendent, to lead us in our invocation, and Charles Baker, Solid Waste Debris Supervisor, to lead us in our pledge of allegiance. Please stand.
Father God, we come as humble as we know how. Father, we say thank you, how you woke us up this morning and started us on our way. And we say thank you as we have traveled through all day, that you have kept hurt, harm, and danger away from us, God. We ask you to continue to bless us and our families and see over us, God, and continue to take care of us, God, and just be with us as we travel to and fro. And everyone that's under the sound of my voice, God, give them a special blessing from the crown of their head to the soles of their feet. And God, we carefully give your name the praise and the glory. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the blessed Holy Ghost, I pray. Amen. Amen.
I pledge allegiance unto the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, and liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, gentlemen. Meeting protocol. Town Manager Mitchell, please review our meeting protocol tonight for public participation as it relates to this meeting. Good evening, Adam.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, board members. It's good to be with you tonight. Tonight's board meeting is both in person and live streamed on the town's YouTube channel and Facebook page. Tonight's meeting contains a public comment period and 2 scheduled public hearings. The public is invited to comment in person. When it is the appropriate time, Mayor Massengale will call on those wishing to address the town board. Move this mic away a little bit here. All attendees that have appeared in person to address the town board during the public comment period should provide your name and address on the registration sheet by the podium prior to the public comment period beginning. We ask all those wishing to address the town board either during the public comment period or a scheduled public hearing to begin their comments by clearly stating their name and address for the public record. The public is asked to keep all comments to 3 minutes so that all that wish to speak can be heard in a timely manner. To be respectful of those that may have different views on matters addressed by the town board, we ask that all in attendance respect the decorum of the meeting by refraining from clapping, making loud noises, and generally showing support or displeasure for comments made during the public comment period or public hearings. Police Chief Medina will be asked to escort from the boardroom anyone not respecting this process, and it is the discretion of the mayor as presiding officer of the meeting as to whether or not to continue the public comment period or public hearing period if the meeting protocol is not followed. This concludes the protocol for tonight's meeting.
Thank you. First item on our agenda is the approval of the minutes of the May 1st, 2023 Town Board of Commissioners regular scheduled meeting. Any changes, corrections, or additions to the minutes? If not, entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve the minutes of the May 1st, 2023 Town Board of Commissioners meeting as presented and recommended.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. First presentation on our agenda tonight is a proclamation for National Public Works Week, which is May 21st through 27th, 2023, coming up very soon. And so the Public Works Department, for those of you that may not know in this room what the Public Works Department does is you see a variety of our Public Works staff every day. Our Public Works staff is in the Sanitation Department. They are in our Debris Department. They're in our Streets Department. They keep our roadways clean. They repair any kind of issues that we may have in our community when a storm comes and water overflows a road and pipes have to be replaced quickly. They keep our shoulders looking nice. And this is just a few of many items that our Public Works staff does here. And we have several of them that are in our room here tonight. And this is a large department led by Tracy Stevenson, and they do an incredible job in our community, keeping our community beautiful and keeping on top of things here in our community. Will our Public Works staff please stand? I want to read a mayoral proclamation in regards to National Public Works Week that's coming up, and ask that everybody here in Fuquay-Varina continue to support our Public Works Department and all staff we have here in Fuquay-Varina. Whereas public works professionals focus on infrastructure, facilities, and services that are of vital importance to sustainable and resilient communities and to the public health, high quality of life, and well-being of the people of the town of Fuquay-Varina. And whereas these infrastructure, facilities, and services could not be provided without the dedicated efforts of public works professionals or engineers, managers, and employees at all levels of government and the private sector who are responsible for rebuilding, improving, and protecting our nation's transportation, water supply, water treatment, and solid waste systems, public buildings, and other structures and facilities essential for our citizens. And whereas it is the public interest for the citizens, civic leaders, and children in Fuquay-Varina to gain knowledge of and to maintain an ongoing interest and understanding of the importance of public works and public works programs in their respective communities. And whereas the year 2023 marks the 63rd annual National Public Works Week sponsored by the American Public Works Association. Now be it therefore resolved that I, Mayor Blake Massengill, do hereby designate the week of May 21st through 27th, 2023 as National Public Works Week. I urge all citizens to join with representatives of the American Public Works Association and government agencies in activities, events, and ceremonies designed to pay tribute to our public works professionals, engineers, managers, and employees, and to recognize the substantial contributions they make to protecting our national health, safety, and quality of life. And witness thereof, whereof I have hereunto set my hand and caused the great seal of the town of Fuquay-Varina to be affixed this 16th day of May 2023. Thank you, men and women in our Public Works Department, for what you do. We appreciate you very much here tonight. And thank you for helping me also. Two members with our Public Works Department, I mentioned earlier, the roles, the two gentlemen that led us in our invocation, our Pledge of Allegiance, are with our Public Works Department too. So thank you, everybody, for being here tonight. Next item on our agenda is presentation item 4B, Fuquay-Varina Coalition for a Healthy and Safe Community. More information about this agenda item will be presented by Coalition Coordinator Tashia Jordan.
Hello, Mayor and Commissioners. We are happy to be here. My name is Tasha Jordan, like he mentioned, and I'm the coordinator for the Fuquay-Varina Coalition for a Healthy and Safe Community. We have some of our members here, Jane, Richie, Marge, Lieutenant Hinton with us today. And so we just wanted to take this time to recognize you for all the great work y'all are doing. Here's the plaque. All the great work y'all are doing to make the community healthy and safe, especially as it relates to our youth. And we had a youth that actually couldn't be here tonight, but he had a thank you note, and so I wanted to share that with you. It says, Mayor Massengill and Town Commissioners, I cannot express my gratitude for your support in passing the tobacco-free legislation for our town. It represents that we are a forward-thinking and problem-solving community, and it is yet another step taken to improve the town we all love so much for current and future citizens. I appreciate this impactful change to make Fuquay-Varina yet again a dash more. Sincerely, Lucas, Fuquay-Varina High School, class of 23.
First of all, thank you very much for coming here tonight. Thank you. I thank all of y'all for coming here to present this to Fuquay-Varina. You know, we started discussing our initiatives in the town. I remember Commissioner Haynes and I had a conversation along with other board members here tonight about implementing some of these goals here in Fuquay-Varina. And so we're glad to be moving forward in that and a dash more too. So thank you for supporting our community, and thank you for coming here tonight. You're all appreciated very much in our community, what you're doing here. This is making a difference in everybody's lives too. Thank y'all. Next item on our agenda is presentation 4C. First place, NC 3C Award, the Storm Walter Series. More information about this will be presented by Communications Director Weiss. Susan, good evening.
Good evening. Good evening. It's always good to be in front of you to bring good news. I'd like to have Jennifer Mitchell, our environmental program coordinator for the town, join me, and anyone who was a part of the Storm Walter videos, if they could join me.
Please.
So, the town of Fuquay-Varina was among 25 North Carolina jurisdictions to earn recognition at the North Carolina City and County Communications 2023 Excellence in Communications Awards. The town of Fuquay-Varina won first place for their four-part series featuring Storm Walter entitled, You Know What Else is Important? In the category of regular programming. But I think that this award belongs to these folks and a lot of other staff members that took part in this series. The awards were announced on May 4th at the annual conference, and there were actually 144 award program entries in all of the categories. So this series, the Storm Walter series, was released, I think if you'll recall, in February of 2022, and it has served to educate our citizens about storm water, what it is, why it's important, and what citizens can do about stormwater. So the video featured our very own Calvin Harmon from IT as Storm Walter. And we used a lot of different staff members from different departments from all over the town as actors in fun scenarios that culminated in the question, you know what else is important? To which Storm Walter would always have facts about storm water. Now, see, that's hard to say if you say Storm Walter and storm water an awful lot. But anyway, the judges' comments included, you had me hooked. It's always a struggle with how to make these environmental stories compelling. This was brilliant. It was a fantastic video series. So we're also very proud of the video views on this series. The total 4 video reach on Facebook to date has been 50,000 people, with an engagement level of approximately 8,000. In addition, the combined videos had almost 1,600 views on Facebook. That's pretty good reach. So because the series is informative and engaging, Jennifer has also made this available to other jurisdictions in the state, and they've been using it. So we're reaching people, we're educating people, and that's exactly what the series was meant to do. So I'd like to present this on behalf of NC3C to Ms. Jennifer and the engineering team. So I don't know if they have anything they'd like to say.
We just had a lot of fun doing it. We really did, and I think it provides some education material that you just don't see for environmental reasons. So I think we're real proud of it. And thank you.
Jennifer and Matt and Susan, congratulations on this right here. One winning this award for it is a neat honor, but most importantly, the video that you made in the series of these right here, taking a topic and that is hard for a lot of people to be able to understand. We see it all the time when a storm happens, but not everybody necessarily understands where the water goes and how it treats impacts the environment, and what goes down our storm drains goes ultimately to our rivers and creeks and to our water supplies right here. And so you took a topic that can be tough to explain to somebody, and with these videos made it very informative right there, and did a great job. And just as Susan mentioned a moment ago, what sticks in your mind is Storm Walter, and because it makes you every time want to drop the L and say Storm Water. Well, that too, water, Storm Water.
It's not easy.
And so, congratulations, it's a great award to win. Before we go into our next presentation, I do want to recognize also in our room here tonight, we have our leadership Fuquay-Varina class that's in the room tonight, and Jeff Stevens has been leading that class recently, and they came to our town hall for a day of lessons, and we were able, from the board standpoint, each different department able to talk to this group right here about how town government works and a variety of different studies that they're doing in our community. Leadership Fuquay-Varina current class, would you mind standing, please? This is a group of individuals that make up all kinds of roles in our community. We have members that are business leaders, nonprofit leaders, and town employees that make up this group here. So thank y'all for coming to see many of y'all have been to a meeting before, but coming here tonight to fully understand how government works. And there's a variety of other people in this room that have been in the leadership Fuquay-Varina classes too. And so I appreciate everybody that's taking the time to do that and learn more here. So thank y'all for being here tonight too. Our next presentation is Dash Moore Environmental Stewardship Award. More information about this agenda item will be presented by Engineering Director Poland.
So actually, this is Jennifer's award. She's put all of her...
Two in a row, Jennifer. Way to go.
She has...
Stormwater night.
Yeah, it is. She has put a lot of time and energy and effort into our public education and outreach for our environmental programs, and I think it stands out from this, the last meeting and now tonight. And so she's done a really good job in her role as environmental program coordinator. So.
Thanks, Matt. Okay. If I could ask Osvaldo and Mariana to come up here. So we are here to award our first ever Dash Moore Environmental Stewardship Award. Joined with me are Osvaldo Linares Gutierrez and his sister Mariana. They are both Fuquay-Varina High School students. Osvaldo is president of our National Honor Society, and I believe Mariana is going to take his place as president next year. Is that right? Yeah, because Osvaldo's graduating. So we wanted to take this opportunity to acknowledge some stuff that Osvaldo and the National Honor Society has done for us, and what better way than to present an award, a Dash Moore. This award is for individuals or organizations that demonstrate some environmental stewardship for the town, okay? And Susan mentioned our stormwater videos, but it really has been a stormwater campaign since those videos rolled out. And as part of that campaign, we do have a litter sweep program that is informational on our website. And I believe that's where Osvaldo found out about it. And he was one of our first volunteers to organize a private litter sweep and actually organize the National Honor Society to do this program. So since he volunteered, he's done 3 of these events. I believe you've had in excess of 30 volunteers, all a part of the National Honor Society. They've picked up over 400 pounds of trash around the Fuquay-Varina High School, and he always does it with a smile. So it's just been really a pleasure to work with him and see what these bright students are doing for their town and what they're willing to get out there and pick up trash. I mean, that's just awesome. So join us in congratulating the Fuquay-Varina National Honor Society. We have an award for them. Oh, and let me not forget to just show this picture. This is what these guys are doing when they're out there. So we have an award for the National Honor Society, and we also have a little token for Osvaldo.
400 pounds of trash is pretty incredible, and you did this as a volunteer in our community. You could have driven past it and looked at it, walked past it each day going to school and ignored it, but instead you did something more for it. You helped coordinate to clean up our community right here. So thank you for taking the time to be a dash more in Fuquay-Varina and help us clean up our community. The Fuquay-Varina 2023 Dashmore Environmental Stewardship Award. Today is May 16, 2023. Osvaldo Linares Gutierrez. 2023 Dashmore Environmental Stewardship Award is presented to the Fuquay-Varina High School National Honor Society. Thank y'all very much. Next presentation is recognition of our inspections department staff. More information about this agenda item will be presented by Inspection Director Hennett. Chris, good evening.
Good evening. Mayor, commissioners, managers, I'm proud to stand in front of you, whatever, to recognize several employees of the inspections department for some of the certifications they've achieved. I'm gonna ask when I call them up or whatever to come up to the front. Annabelle Laval, his date of hire for us was April of 2022. He has since achieved his Mechanical 1 Standard Certificate and his Plumbing 1 Standard Certificate. He has his probationaries or whatever in the following, in the other two categories, which is building and electrical. Hannibal. All right. Next up be Stephen Kerbinsay. His date of hire was April of 2022, and he has achieved his Plumbing Level 1 Standard Certificate. And he also has all of his other probationary certificates. Next in line will be Paul Wise. Date of hire is October of 2021. Paul has achieved his Mechanical 1 and his Plumbing 1 Standard Certificates. He has his probationary certificates in Building 1, Electrical 1, and he also has his Mechanical 2 and Plumbing 2. Fourth, Justin Daniel. His date of hire was October of 2021. Justin has achieved all of his level 1 standard certificates, electrical, building, mechanical, and plumbing. He also holds probationaries and all probationary level 2s and the rest. Next up is Tim Johnson. His date of hire was July of 2018. He just received his electrical level 3. He has his building 3, and he holds probationary certificates in plumbing 3 and mechanical 3. And he's just waiting to serve experience or whatever to be able to sit his test for those. Last up but not least is Tom Keating. His date of hire was October of 2018. He just achieved his electrical level 3, which makes him, he has received, that's his last certification he can earn. He has all level 3s in building, plumbing, mechanical, and electrical wise. And that's an achievement or whatever to be able to, I'm proud of all of them.
Gentlemen, Gentlemen, thank you for taking the time to continue to get certifications in your fields right here. Inspections department obviously does inspections in our town, but what kind of inspections do? They're doing building, plumbing, mechanical, electrical on both residential and commercial buildings right here. And you're keeping our citizens safe in town, making sure that good quality products meet minimum building code here in North Carolina, keeping our citizens safe and keeping in turn our insurance ratings low, knowing that something is built. And these guys often leave every day with a long list of inspections and are getting them done here in our community. So thank you for watching out for our citizens here in Fuquay-Varina, and thank y'all for continuing your education.
Thank you.
Don't break the camera. Don't break the camera. No, sir.
Let's see.
Like you like each other.
Thank you. Next item on our agenda is our new fire department staff. More information about this agenda item will be presented by Fire Chief Jones. Jim, good evening.
Good evening. Mayor and Commissioners, thank you for this opportunity tonight. After an extensive process to fill 2 firefighter vacancies, I am pleased to announce that we not only have hired 2 qualified firefighters, but we have added 2 new members to our family. These 2 gentlemen completed a 2-week orientation which taught them fireground operations and procedures that are specific to our department. It also familiarized them with the department apparatus and equipment. This orientation period is an action-packed 2 weeks filled with policy review and many hours of pulling hose and re-racking it on the trucks. They did it again, and they did it again, and I fully believe that they probably could do it in their sleep when the orientation period was over. They worked hard, they never complained, and they gained the respect of a lot of Saudi firefighters that are hard to impress. Each of these new firefighters have been assigned to a shift and are already making a good name for themselves. Tonight, I will introduce each one, and their battalion chief will pin their badge on them, officially signifying their rank of firefighter with the town of Fuquay-Varina Fire Department. So first up, John Goodwin. John, if you'll take a step forward. John has more than 12 years of fire service experience. He comes to the Fuquay-Varina Fire Department from a career position with the Buies Creek Fire Department. And prior to making the right career decision, John was a police officer for 3 years with the Lexington, North Carolina Police Department. Firefighter Goodwin is being pinned by his battalion chief, Dustin Grimes. Next up, Rodolfo Silva. Rodolfo graduated from the Sand Hills Fire Academy in 2019 and has more than 6 years of fire service experience. He comes to Fuquay-Varina Fire Department from a career position with the Spring Lake Fire Department. Rodolfo spent most of his youth in Mexico and still enjoys going home to visit his mother. Firefighter Silva will be pinned by his battalion chief, Garland Johnston. One more thing I want to add, Mayor. We officially welcome you guys to the town of Fuquay-Varina Fire Department and look forward to your continued growth, not only in the fire service, but in our department. Congratulations. Thank you.
Welcome to Fuquay-Varina. We're glad that you have chosen Fuquay-Varina Fuquay-Varina Fire Department for your career here. You'll find that you got a great community that supports this fire department. You'll really enjoy working with these, not just these 3 fine gentlemen in the fire department, but the entire men and women in the fire department that do a great job. So thank y'all for coming to Fuquay-Varina. Thank you for choosing us. Chief, you are in the process of filling your new fire station that's under construction, and you were pretty much at all positions filled or close to it,
Just
aren't you?
about, just about. We have one vacancy left that we're going to wait till the new budget year to fill it. So yes, sir, we're close.
That's right, and I think
Yes,
that
sir.
shows the great atmosphere that you have with your
Yes, sir.
employees, not just a camaraderie and the family atmosphere that you are, but the training, the education, the resources that you provide your firefighters.
Yes,
right
sir.
here.
We are blessed with the staff that we have. Yes, sir.
You got great staff, and we're very proud of you here in Fuquay-Varina. Welcome to Fuquay-Varina, guys.
Do we do another picture?
I'm gonna break my teeth tonight smiling.
Good, good, good.
Next presentation on our agenda tonight is recognition of Dawn Russell, Downtown Development Manager, completion of Leadership North Carolina program. More information about this agenda item will be presented by Economic Development Director McNeil. Tiffany, good evening.
Good evening, everyone.
Good.
Y'all like my image? Mayor, Board of Commissioners, it's an honor to be here with you tonight to recognize our Downtown Development Manager, Dawn Russell, as a recent graduate of Leadership North Carolina program. Dawn is among the 55 civic and community leaders across the state that make up the 30th class of Leadership North Carolina. Each year, Leadership North Carolina, through a rigorous selection process, elect members to participate in this program. These members are established leaders or emerging leaders. Over the course of the past 7 months, participants learned about critical issues impacting the state of North Carolina. Sessions focused on economic development, education, environment, government, health, and human services. Through this program, participants learn how their insight can improve their communities and the state of North Carolina. And I would like to present this certificate of achievement to Dawn tonight.
Oh, that's nice.
And it reads, I'll turn around. So, Leadership North Carolina, in recognition of outstanding leadership experience and dedicated service to the state of North Carolina, the Leadership North Carolina Board of Directors and the Office of the Governor hereby confer upon Dawn Russell Certificate of Achievement. Congratulations, Dawn, and thank you.
Dawn's got a neat job, and what Dawn does is, I can tell them all good things about you first, Dawn. So Dawn, a Downtown Development Manager, does exactly that. She is in charge of our downtown, overseeing our downtown and partnering, and not just supporting businesses and citizens in town, but helping to grow our downtown. And Dawn, you do an incredible job. The Fuquay-Varina Downtown Association, Dawn is also a part of. And Dawn, you are cherished in our downtown and do a great job with what you do. Everybody throughout our downtown knows who Dawn is and knows where to go if they need something. Somebody's trying to sound me out, Dawn. But I think they're doing revving their car in appreciation of you. So thank you, Dawn. That's right. Congratulations. I believe, Dawn, Dinner on Downtown is sold out on Saturday? So Dinner on Downtown is one of our key downtown fundraising events. So you missed out on a ticket, you're not going to get to go. She said it's sold out. But look for it next year. Get your tickets in advance. Next presentation is recognition of Captain Tim Smith and Captain Chris Gathman, North Carolina Justice Academy's Leadership Certificate Program. More information about this agenda item will be presented by Police Chief Medina. Chief, good evening.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners, Managers. The North Carolina Justice Leadership Certificate Program, also known as the LCP, is a challenging 400-hour pursuit towards leadership excellence. Captain Chris Gathman and Captain Tim Smith have diligently completed various advanced leadership training via the North Carolina Justice Academy. One course they've completed this past Friday was the Leadership Institute, comprised of 120 hours of intense academics aimed to equip leaders to steer their agencies and communities towards the future. It seeks to expand leadership education with a focus on trends and topics having the greatest impact on today's criminal justice organizations. Partnered with the UNC School of Government, the Leadership Institute seeks to maximize leadership education while minimizing the cost of the amount of time students are required to be away from home and work. After their successful completion of the required 400 hours, both Captain Chris Gathman and Captain Tim Smith have successfully earned the North Carolina Justice Academy Leadership Certificate. At this time, I'd like to present both of them with their certificates.
Chief, you have an incredible staff here at Fuquay-Varina. You know that we are very proud of your staff. Fuquay-Varina continues to be ranked a top safe community, not just in North Carolina, but in our nation. And so this is due to your staff and your team continuing to be educated, staying on the forefront of policing issues. And you two taking the time to 400 hours of your time to do this class right here is incredible, and it's very much appreciated by our citizens here. You do a great job along with your entire department, a great job here in Fuquay-Varina. So thank y'all very much. We're glad to have you here tonight, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Shake my hand. Congratulations, guys. Next presentation, item 4I, is a market study presentation. More information about this agenda item will be presented by Human Resources Director Moody. Wendy, good evening.
Hi, good evening, Mayor, Board. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to speak tonight. We just want to talk briefly about our recent market study. So in July of 2022, we implemented changes from the pay and class study. Several surrounding communities implemented their pay studies after we did. And as a result, the data that they submitted to us was outdated at the time of our study. In order to remain competitive with our peers, it was necessary to perform a market study. We are contracted with Piedmont Triad Regional Council to perform the study, and the fiscal note for this is that as the salary and benefits for fiscal year 2024 will have an impact of $1.8 million. And so once you hear the presentation, the motion tonight will be to approve full implementation of the market study recommended findings as presented and recommended. And so I'm going to turn it over to Matt Reese to go over the summary that he's provided for you tonight.
Thank you, Wendy. I appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
Well, you all have given me a rather tough assignment to follow up on tonight. I have no Storm Walter, I have no awards, I got some charts, I got some graphs, and that's about it. So,
You'll do a good job.
bear with me if you can. Perhaps it will be a dash more. We'll see. All right. So, yeah, what we have is $1.3 million ask, and here's what we're going to try to do with that. We're going to try to move to 105 on entry level of the market. That would be that dash more right there. And then we're going to adjust with all of the implementation that we will do, to 114% of the actual average. So that's based both on the work that we're doing tonight and we're presenting to you tonight, but also the good work that you did last year. So it's a process to build to get to that point, right? This is one of those constant areas of maintenance that you have to pay attention to. And then we do want to point out to you that there will be an additional round, so to speak, that we would like to entertain tonight, that a variety of departments are looking at implementing career ladders. And a career ladder, you've got those in your police and fire structure and so forth, but Public Works would like to consider that. Utilities has got some revisions that they'd like to make, Parks and Rec as well. All of that added together is about 150,000 of the 1.3 that you're seeing presented to you tonight. It takes some time to really be sure that those are being implemented correctly. You really want to look at that criteria of it. The department heads really need to work with their staff and spend some time on that. So we're sort of putting an earmark, if you will, on that work that we'll come back and probably present to you in the fall. So this is really a national phenomenon that we're experiencing here. So what this is a data set from the Department of Labor. And what it shows is the employment cost index. And so what you can, and this is just for state and local government workers across the U.S., but you really see that trend line that is ticked up, right? You see how post-COVID, it really began to shut up. That's the experience that you've had. That's the data that we presented to you last year. You do see a little bit on when it starts getting into that 2023 data point there, where that line's flattening out just a little bit. So we are seeing some softening in wage rates, but not tremendously. Last year was roughly a 10% sort of change year. We're looking at a 6% change year for this year that we'll talk about. So how that looks for North Carolina, you all may remember this chart from last year, and you really have to take a hard look at it because it's not changed a whole lot. So last year we were at 0.8 people per position. This year it's actually tightened up, and we're looking at 0.7 workers available for every job opening. The real issue on both of those is this trend line, right? For a long period of time, we had far more workers than we had jobs. And that has been inverted in the last few years, and we're really in new territory that we're continuing to try to navigate. This is data from Department of Commerce, and it's for that north central region, that green area that you're in. We mentioned this last year. That data set is going to be for that entire region and includes rural stats in that as well. Usually that is much tighter once you get into the urban core and Wake County that we have. So the expectations for next year remain really high. And what this is from the League of Municipalities. This is their forecast for next year. So you can see that really on a statewide, we're looking at least probably a 5 on average, perhaps running up to as high as a 6.4 on that. Again, this was in the 10% range for last year, so we have had a little bit of cooling on that, but things remain high, right? That on the high end in the eastern part of North Carolina, we're looking at 16.5% change potentially. In the Piedmont and central region, 18%. So this is showing us that this continual work of being about the maintenance of your pay plan is really important. It's important, crucial work that you all did last year, and you're to be commended on it. It's good that you're considering this again tonight, and then the future work that we will have in sequential years remains very important. So here's what we did is that last year we had a little bit wider, I'll use these lovely DOT graphs for you, that we used a wider group of the triangle. And what we've done now is really the competitive area is right where you sit geographically. It is Wake County. So that's where we've zeroed in our focus, is to look at those competitors within Wake County and really see, are we tracking with them, not so much concerned about that outer ring that we have in the triangle. So let's take a specific look at police officers. So you'll remember our graphs here that this shows with the blue lines where we are for entry. That is our primary point of comparison for the general pay plan. Let me say that again, that the entry point minimum comp analysis becomes our primary point of comparison for those positions that are in the general pay plan. Then the orange stack that you see on there, that's the proposed adjustment when we move from police pay plan grade 2001 to police pay plan grade 2002. That orange stack is what we're doing there. You see the intersecting blue line there for average to kind of give you a quick visual of where we are, and you can see where all of your other competitors. Now, there's some folks that are going to remain higher in a lot of categories. The Apex and so forth is going to be out there, but what we're trying to do is maintain roughly 100% of that average with that additional stack, and our overall score on that is 104. So we did some good work last year. Not all of the classes are needing to move, so when we look at our Building Codes Inspector 3 and we see where that average is, we're ahead of that. We intentionally moved that class last year, given what we were seeing with data. There were a couple of competitors that really had adjusted their rates, and we were trying to keep up with that last year, and we've done a good job. This is really the best result. This really is what you want to see when a study comes back, is that there aren't any changes, right? That is somewhat counterintuitive a lot because you want to see changes and so forth, but what this means is there was never any period of lag at any point, right? That you were maintaining that competitive position. So there are a few classes, though, that are going to need to have a 2-grade adjustment. So when we look at a variety of your labor and trades classes and some of those that are at the entry level potentially, this park maintenance technician is exemplary of that. So it's an 8 to 10 movement that we're talking about. You see where we're intersecting with that one. With this one, when we look at a variety of other classes related to it, we do need to keep in mind internal equity. So that's one of the reasons why this position is staggering out above where we are for that average, because when we look at it in relationship to where we have other operators, where we've got other labor and trades classes, we want that entire series to track along. So what this one is indicating of yes, we're looking at market data, but we're also looking at internal equity and being sure that like family classes are moving in tandem with each other. So let's, we've covered a lot with field operation, but let's look at one that's more of an internal service with a customer service specialist and moving from a grade 9 to a 10. You can see with this one, we're still remaining just a smidge behind. So not always do we score exactly ideally where we might want to with that. We're trying to put it, again, with internal equity, move all of those classes in occupational families together, so there's time where we'll be slightly behind our ideal goal. Again, another reason why you want to look at it periodically, you want to keep up with it, you want to maintain it on a regular basis, so there'll be another look at this in the coming year. You've seen that we move these grades, right, from grade 9 to grade 10. So let's take a look at the pay table. So just to refresh yourselves, this is what that looks like. So when we're talking about moving grades, this is what we're looking at. We made a few adjustments in the fire series pay plan and in the police pay plan to get the width on it consistent. That it was 52% at the beginning of the study, so we spread that out to be a consistent 60% to be in line with the rest of the general pay plan. But that certainly will be an action that you will be taking when you approve it. So the mechanism of the study is to move from one grade to the next. So this is a summary of all of the classes that were reviewed, where they currently were, what their proposed grade is, and where they're changing. So that gives you that sort of quick visual to see what grades moved, what classes moved, how many they moved, and give you that sort of insight into it. When we're talking about grades being moved, that's where we get to the implementation of how we consistently apply the changes in salaries for employees based on this method. So it's not looking at individuals, it's not looking at individual salaries, so to speak, as it is looking at their position in the range that they have, right? So the way that works, in this one we've illustrated that if a firefighter 1 is currently at grade 12 and it's moving up to grade 13 as that proposed, that minimum is 45,252. If anyone is below the new minimum of 47,515, we're going to move them to that minimum, right? And that could be as much as a 5% increase to move from the entry point to the new entry point. For employees that are above the 47,515, they are also going to receive a 5% adjustment in their pay. So the reason for that is it's called 100% proportional implementation that you see at the top of that graph. And the idea with that is that keeps all of those positions relative, right? That we're trying to do that. And there's a couple of reasons for that. One, that's a good methodology to use if you can afford to do it. It's an expensive methodology, but if you can afford to do it, it's good. The other reason is that the town has the practice of increasing salaries 5% at probation. So if we didn't anticipate that and move that along, you're really going to have a compression effect, potentially a leapfrogging effect, where newer employees would move ahead of other employees. So it's one of those things that you really want to do. However, this year we have a wrinkle. Isn't that exciting in compensation? So the wrinkle this year is that as we looked at where we were scoring out, you'll remember that 114% score from the top of the slide to average actual, that really we can control at midpoint and continue to keep those good scores, right? So what that does for us, what does controlling at midpoint mean? That means you're going to get the 5% per grade change up to midpoint. So for the purposes of the pay study, we're going to cap movement at midpoint. Well, why would we do that? In some cases, we've got overlap between lower level positions that begin to ride up into supervisory positions, where, say, someone who is in a non-supervisory role in PD in your fire department would come above a higher level of supervision. So if we can control some of that in this midpoint control, that's a good thing. You want to do that, right? Also, what we're really trying to do is spread it out in the first portion of the range, right? To move it towards maximums, not necessarily our goal. That's not what we're trying to achieve in compensation. What we're trying to do is spread it out so we don't have folks clustered around that midpoint where we wouldn't have that leapfrogging. So by the time we've gotten up 30% into the range at that midpoint, we can start backing off on that a little bit. Now, that doesn't mean that folks can't move beyond midpoint. They certainly can. You will have performance increases that you will give, and so those folks can continue to move all the way out to maximum. You'll also see that in movement of, say, even a 2-grade change, and if my salary was above the midpoint, there's still benefit to me as an individual employee because now my maximum is 10% higher. So as I get those performance increases, I'm not going to cap out like I might if I hadn't received that 2-grade adjustment, even if there's not immediate dollars in the implementation. So we're controlling by the midpoint. So this graph is really important to look at. Another wrinkle that we have for your consideration tonight is the creation of a new pay plan. You've got a pay plan devoted to fire. You've got a pay plan devoted to your police department. What a variety of employers have done is take out the top layer of their pay plan in their general pay plan and move that to a separate system. Why would you do that? It gives you more flexibility within the general pay plan. What happens is for the positions that you see here, these are at grade 25 and above was the slice that we took for this year. Those positions really are very seldom hired at minimum in a 60% wide grade. They're typically hired much closer to that midpoint. Usually all of these are single incumbent classes, and then it's really looking at people who have been in service for quite some time, even when they're joining your organization, and so you're hiring them well up into an existing range typically. Well, what that does, if we leave them in the plan, we really have a large portion of a stranded pay plan, right? That we're basing it on minimums, but when we look at that, there's this whole portion of a pay range that's not being used. And that has an artificial cap on those folks that are beneath those positions, right? Because we're having to move those grades and move them out even further and give us enough room to do so. It's a much easier fix to move them to this banded pay system. Now, it's based on the revised job target, so it's very, very market driven. So we look at saying this is the market value that we've ascertained in the study, and then we bracket around that a tolerance entry point and a tolerance high point. 95 on the low, 105 on the high. And then the employees are moving in between those 2 points. in terms of the compensation decisions that we would make for typically for hiring and typically for movement in a study. So this implementation also limits the movement. If an employee's current salary is above that T high column, our tolerance high column, then there's no additional dollars that are awarded for movement for that employee because they're already above that market point. We're not talking about entry, we're talking about actual average, right? And we're talking that we roughly are scoring out at 114%. So there's no additional movement. However, that's if you're above the T high on your current salary. But if your current salary is below the T entry, our tolerance for entry level, then we're going to move you to that entry, and that might be a 10% adjustment to get you to that point. If you're somewhere in the middle of that, right, you see down at the bottom of that graph, you've got your blue minimum and your red for the cap of the study. If you're in that range, and in fact, if you're even below that range, but 5% will move you along further, and that would be a greater advantage to you, then you're going to get the 5%, right? If it takes more than 5% to get you to minimum, we're going to get you to minimum. We're going to get you to that T entry point. But otherwise, it's a 5% unless you're higher than the cap. Then there's no additional dollars for you. As well as if there's less than 5% that will get you to the cap, then that's how that's going to be awarded as well, that the cap becomes the cap. Again, not that the individual might move beyond that T high with performance, right? The band doesn't end until 200,000. So they can move on beyond that with performance increases. But for the purposes of ascertaining are they close to where they need to be for market, this is the tool to use that for this group in the banded pay structure, allowing you more flexibility for your general pay plan. Over time, we will probably need to consider, are there other classes that need to move into this, right? There may be further ones. This is sort of our first attempt at this market-based plan, at having it. So my guess is that you will have other classes that you will move into that over time. So if you enjoyed this evening and you thought it was insightful, I've got good news for you. We're going to get to do it again, right? So we have this presentation planned for next year. We have the career ladder that we will be bringing to you. Wendy's done a great job of sort of capitalizing and covering where we have been in the past. This process adds to it. The process that you have planned in the future is an additional work to that. It is routine maintenance that you really must do to maintain the competitive point to be a dash more. So if I can answer any questions for you, I'm happy to do so.
I heard you say, Mr. Reese, that you used Wake County and the closest municipalities in our market area instead of pulling some of the outlying communities that are not considered to be, there may be places that offer similar jobs, but not necessarily the same living.
That's right.
Pay schedule right there. I believe I understood you to say also, as this market study was completed, it's not as volatile and as high as last year was.
That's right.
So maybe we're trending to more of a, I'm not sure what would define normal, but less volatile market, I should say.
I think you're right.
From a pay standpoint. And I think this board has said that we wanted as you saw tonight, our presentations that we had, and we demand high quality work out of our staff, but we also know that our staff deserves to be paid for the job that they do right here. And this is what you're doing here. You're showing us how you did a good job last year. The market's changed. You need to do some more figuring.
Absolutely.
Manager, what conditions or thoughts? I know you've worked on this with our management, well, it's not our management, our budget on there. You want to speak in regards to how that's, how these recommendations affected your budget?
Yeah, so it won't have any impact on the recommended budget. I don't know if you can go back to slide number 1, Wendy, but the implementation of this plan, just compensation alone, is around $1.3 million. When you factor in benefits, it goes to about $1.8 million. And we have sufficiently factored that into the recommended fiscal year 24 budget, so there won't be a change necessary. In fact, we may have, as we have continued to work to refine a little bit, we may have a little bit of savings in the budget when it all shakes out at the end of the year, end of the fiscal year. But there won't be any necessary amendments or changes required.
That's my point exactly. You are aware of where the direction of things were going, and I know we have a budget hearing later tonight, but that takes into account these numbers right here.
Yes, sir.
So we can fully look after our staff there. Okay. Any questions or comments from board members?
Go ahead.
I just have a couple of questions for clarification. When you identified the group, is this study focused on those people with salaries $100,000 and above, or was that just the example?
That was just the example, and that last one, that's the group that represents grade 25 and up in your current pay system. But we looked at everything that you have. We looked at every position in the town. We looked at all of the folks that do the regular operational work that you need, the folks that keep town hall running, the folks that keep IT moving. So we looked at every single position in the town.
Okay, all right, thank you. And so this pay study will be inclusive of every position?
Indeed.
All right, the second question is, how does cost of living and performance and merit bake into this particular proposal?
Well, cost of living is on top of the changes here, but we have also included that in the budget, and the merit would be later in the year, and that's being recommended up to 3% merit.
Okay.
For our employees.
Okay, so in this study, that was not factored at all. This was just mainly based on market comparisons for these particular positions?
Yeah, and if I can just take that, that's correct, Commissioner.
Okay.
It does, this is for, what has been presented tonight addresses market and market conditions.
Okay.
And then, based on good information and data that we have, there are assumptions built into our fiscal year 24 for cost of living adjustments and merit, which we believe all of the competitors in our marketplace will also be doing. And so that keeps us trending, doing the COLA adjustment and the potential merit performance for employees, keeps us trending along with the competitive market so that when Matt does this analysis next year, there hopefully won't be as large of a gap. Now, again, we're doing this for Fuquay-Varina employees. Holly Springs, Apex, Cary, Garner, all the other ones in Wake County are considering something for their employees too. And if they end up doing more than we do, then, you know, obviously that gap will be a little bit wider when we look at it next year. If they do something less, then maybe we're in a little bit more favorable position. If they do something along the same lines, then that works too. So we'll evaluate all of that again next year when we go through this process.
Okay, thank you.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you very much.
Mayor Pro Tem Smith, you had a comment?
I did, but Commissioner Harris's second question was very similar to mine. I got the answer. Thank you, Wendy. Thank you, Town Manager. But my questions were answered as well.
Questions or comments? Okay.
I think I'm good.
Thank you, Wendy.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Reese.
So, in fact, when you do consider to take action on the budget, you will in effect be considering to implement the pay study at that time. So no separate motion is required tonight.
Next presentation, item 4J, transit study and opening of public comment period. More information about the agenda item will be presented by Jared Draper, Tool Design Group.
I get to come up
And
first?
Director,
So, I would like
Davis.
to introduce you tonight to Jared Draper with Tool Design Group, who is one of the consultants on the transit study the town undertook beginning July of 2022. This draft represents the culmination of nearly a year's work at assessing the feasibility of expanded transit opportunities for the town of Fuquay-Varina. Staff and the consultant kicked off this project in October of last year and have been working diligently to study two types of transit, a fixed route circulator and an express route along NC 55, both of which have emerged as appropriate options for the future of transit. Public comment period opened yesterday. This draft is available for review at letstalkfv.org/transit-study, as well as a paper copy in the lobby of Town Hall and at South Park Community Center. We'll be accepting public comments until June 12th. We are excited we'll be bringing this back to you after any adjustments have been made based on our public comments at the July Town Board meeting. At this time, I'll turn it over to Mr. Draper to present the Tool Design Group's findings as it relate to the future of transit in Fuquay-Varina.
Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. I'm glad to be before you tonight. As it was mentioned, we're going to talk through the findings. I want to give an overview of what's been done so that you can understand kind of how we got to some of those recommendations. At the end of this, we'll talk about what that recommendation is moving forward. Really, this is about an option for transit, and really taking the next step around funding and implementation is really up to you all when it comes to transit and what that is as a service. So where we're going this evening, I really want to start with some of the goals when it comes to transit in Fuquay-Varina. We must start with what's happening within your community, and that is a lot of growth. You can see here in the kind of the most recent census eras, we have 91% growth, which is pretty phenomenal for any community. We're seeing this across the triangle in this part of the region. And just over the last 5 years, just again, tremendous growth. And so what does this mean? Really, it's about, as you see more people coming to this community, how do you create mobility options that is really leveraging the work that's already been done, supporting growth that's happening, kind of building into the development, and really doing all of that without changing the character of your community. And so while transit and expanding transit options is a really good first step, that first step may not do everything, but it's really starting to build on giving people choices when they're here to get around, make daily trips. And so you want to see here, we looked at active developments around your community. I think it's really important to notice that this map is very lit up because a lot of things are happening within this community. But you can also see that there's a lot of things happening around the outskirts, kind of on the Jed Parkway kind of corridor. And so where do people need to go? Where are those new developments happening? And as new development happens, the people that are moving in, the businesses and employers, employees, how are they moving around this community? When it comes to community engagement, there was a variety of things that we did. We did a pop-up event to speak to people that are already riding the FRX bus as well as drivers. We had an online survey, and we had 2 open house, one in person, the South Park Community Center, and the other one virtual. A few things that are really big findings from that engagement. First of all, because you only have one transit route, the FRX, which connects Fuquay-Varina to downtown Raleigh, this is not a surprise that of 170 responses, 64% of those do not ride transit. And so the FRX is a major commuter route, and so if you're not using that kind of service for commuting, it makes sense that maybe you aren't riding transit in Fuquay-Varina today. Some of the things that we heard about where people are going and why they would want that, recreation, shopping, errands, all of these things are important when it comes to daily trips. We asked specifically about the top things that would encourage someone to maybe take transit. Really, this is the impetus for this study to understand if we're going to expand, why would you do that, and what would be the incentive for people to take part. And so you can see here more destinations, making sure the operating hours are long enough, that it's actually closer to home to get on to that service, and then ultimately more frequency, not having to wait for long periods of time for a bus to come. Additionally, where do people want to go? Nearby communities, we've already touched on, this looking at the alternative to Holly Springs and ultimately connecting to Apex and Cary, not just downtown Raleigh. Downtown Raleigh was mentioned specifically as a connection point, but then also the places here that people want to go, downtown shops and restaurants, explore this community via transit service, are things that could be really valuable if they were added into an opportunity for transit. You can see here, these are places that people actually put their own points onto a map. That dark purple area are the most points. We heard the most people wanted to kind of frequent those places if transit took them there. You can also see toward along 401 as well as 55 toward Holly Springs, really kind of being the most dense locations of those points where people would like to connect to. So just big summary, as we mentioned, more destinations, really important, having frequent service, not having to wait a long time, access to shops and restaurants and other services, and then making sure that if we're going to provide service, that there are amenities that people think are valuable, lighting, Wi-Fi, signage, so that it's easy to get around and it's intuitive. And I think some other important considerations are access for older adults, as well as student transit needs. We have young and old populations that maybe aren't using a car for every single type of trip, and so having transit to serve those needs and get around town can be really valuable. And then serving any of those newer developments that are coming online, as means more residents, again, more employees. So with all of that input, we developed 4 kind of really important goals when it came to transit. If we're going to evaluate any scenarios, we needed to understand what those goals could be. So first, the idea of improving mobility options for all. This is really about giving people choices around how they move around this community, whether it's driving, walking, biking, using transit. So this is one of those mobility options. The next is making it convenient, because if it's not convenient, why would we want to use it? And so we want to make sure that it's safe, it's seamless, it's really intuitive for anybody that would want to use it. And so we're measuring that. Next is supporting the growth and development that's already occurring. This is leveraging whatever transit route that may be possible to connect to some of those developments. And then lastly, leveraging efficiencies. So knowing that there's already work that's being done when it comes to transit in this community, in neighboring communities, with regional operators. And so we want to build off of those instead of do something isolated that has to stand on its own. So when it came to selecting a preferred alternative, we started with a lot of different ideas. We took the goals and the evaluation criteria. We listened to what people said about transit and why they would want to ride it or what would incentivize them. And we created a few different scenarios that ultimately moved to a preferred alternative. Just really quickly, I wanted to show there's some loops that started to connect in a variety of different places. Each one of these loops, as we started to evaluate it against the goals, there was something that was missing, and so it started to shift and change when it came to a circulator. Really, we had each one of those goals, and there's a number of different criteria that we walked through. I won't read all of these, but when it came to mobility, improving mobility options, we were thinking about the populations, we were thinking about activity centers. When it came to convenience, we wanted to think about user experience, as well as the connections to other places that were already existing. Supporting growth and development, we wanted to really focus in on not only the developments that it would serve, but also think about phasing options that could be viable in the future, not only kind of the immediate term or short term, but what is possible in the future. And then lastly, regional connectivity when it comes to leveraging efficiencies, and then looking at compatible technology. So with all of those options, as we worked through these criteria, we came with the recommendations of the preferred alternative of adding onto the FRX, that connection from Fuquay-Varina to downtown, 2 options. One is circulator around town, as well as another express route to Holly Springs that would ultimately connect to the 305. I don't think that's for me, right there, like the downtown plan. Want to walk through each one of these. When it comes to the circulator, the preferred circulator starts as a clockwise loop. Primarily, it follows along Judd Parkway with some strategic dips to connect to some of the destinations within your community. You can see here, this has a number of different things on it, along with the route itself. It's showing schools, municipal buildings, parks, some of the development that's already occurring. Also senior housing, as well as you can see the kind of bright purple spots. So those are the points that people placed on maps of where they would want to connect to if transit service was provided. I'll talk about why clockwise is the preferred alternative as a phase 1 in just a few slides, but it does really leverage some of the infrastructure that's already available. When it comes to that circulator operation, it's a 9-mile loop in one direction. Phase 1 would be the clockwise, and then if you were to add a phase 2 in the future, it could go counterclockwise, so you're basically creating both of those loops, more frequent service. Right now, it is recommended as a baseline of being every 30 minutes, so that bus would come every 30 minutes, gives a little bit more reliable service. Operation would be 6 a.m. to 10 p.m., really capturing not only people that would want to take it for kind of daily trips after work hours, but also could connect to transit or commuting for work, both before and after kind of our peak rush hours. Monday through Saturday, recognizing that some people need that transit service outside of the normal workday or work week. And then right now, this is being shown as a service that is free. It is comparable to the other circulators that are in the region, both being Apex and Wake Forest, that operate those services as free. And then the mention about the clockwise versus the counterclockwise, there are 30 stops on that clockwise route, and then there would be an additional 29 if you went to the counterclockwise in phase two. Did want to touch on the preferred route for the express connecting to Holly Springs. This would be, because of it's an express route, it would not have a number of stops between here and Holly Springs. Ultimately, it would start at the South Park Community Center, travel along 55. There's a future park and ride in Holly Springs that's planned, so it would stop there, and then it would go into the town itself. Those would be the only stops that it makes. When it comes to the operation here, you can see this is a 6.5 mile route one way. It would be operated bi-directional. Because it's express, it would be operated on each hour instead of that every 30 minutes, which would connect into the service that's already happening with the 305. And then the span of hours would be 6 a.m. to 8 p.m., Monday to Saturday as well. And then for a baseline, we use a $3 fee for that express route for each direction. And so when we think about those fees or the fares for that transit operation, it really depends on how much you would like to, or if you had grant money to subsidize that more to make it less, or the other way to make it more expensive. And so again, that is a baseline. And those stops I mentioned, just the three: Fuquay, the South Park Community Center, the Future Park and Ride, as well as Center and Main Street in Holly Springs. All right, we'll wrap things up here. When we look at vehicle types, for a circulator, we look at a smaller vehicle. It could be branded as the Fuquay-Varina circulator. This is one example of one in Cary, smaller vehicle, kind of a shuttle type bus. And then for that express bus, it would be a larger 40-foot transit vehicle, similar to what's already operated for the FRX. When it comes to cost, these are the numbers when it comes for the circulator route. You could see we are looking at the overall service that we mentioned, 9 miles in length, 30-minute frequency of that circulator, have 16 hours with 32 trips per day, and ultimately that comes out to around a little under $1.2 million for an annual operating cost. If you were to add phase 2, which would be that counterclockwise motion, that total would then be a little almost $2.4 million for operating costs. For the express, this has a less frequency, so the 60 minutes shorter. And so you can see there, if you're doing all day, which was proposed for kind of the 6 a.m. to the 8 p.m., it's about $440,000 per year for operating. If you were to only do peak time travel, so that would be 5 a.m. trips and then 5 p.m. trips, that would be $130,000 for that operating cost annually. A few other things that we just wanted to explore so that you have the information kind of moving forward is that if you wanted to add Sunday service to the circulator, you could, again, with the same 30-minute frequency, that would just increase the amount for that phase 1 by around $200,000. And then if you were to take that same phase 1 for the Monday through Saturday and change it from 30-minute frequency to a 60-minute frequency, so that bus coming less often, it would be about half the cost, so annual operating cost of around $600,000. The bus stops themselves, when it comes to infrastructure, again, we're thinking about seating and shelters, lighting, making sure that people have a trash can at those sites. The clockwise direction, it actually already has some of the infrastructure in place, so there'd be less cost up front when it comes to capital costs. And that's where you can see those 30 stops total would be $272,000. When you're adding that phase 2, the counterclockwise, because that infrastructure doesn't exist, you would be looking at $405,000 additional to add that infrastructure. That can be done in a variety of different ways through CIP projects or other types of projects that are ongoing, and so it wouldn't have to be something that happens all at once. It could be gradual. Lastly, when it comes to implementation and funding, the recommendation is to really explore transit and take the circulator and the express route and start to connect with those regional operators and other partners to think about how this can be. There's a lot of funding options. We mentioned here the Community Funding Area Program, locally administered projects programs, as well as the Federal Bus and Bus Facilities Formula Program. Some of those require matches, and there can be a variety of other ways to actually find grant funding for the match. I think the last thing that I'll say before taking any questions is that when you're investing in transit as a service for your community, obviously the capital cost is one thing for annual operating, but as that service matures, it becomes something that's really valuable for your community. The routes that were selected as the initial expansion, if you're going to explore transit, are really focused in on places where people are going to be. And so that if you're going to operate transit, you want to make sure that it connects to the people where they are, but also to the new development that's happening and where you're seeing a lot of density and making sure that access happens. And so with that, I have the map of the circulator up. I thought it might be the right place to take questions, but I'm happy to do so.
Are you you're not necessarily recommending one of those alternatives right now? You mentioned that we're also for public comment, or are you saying that your public comment has given you enough information to recommend?
Right now, this is the public comment for the entire
You're ready to start public
plan
comment on that. Okay.
is out. And so the recommendation in that plan right now is to connect with those regional operators to really identify how do we fund this, make that next step to invest in one of those options. It could be both, could be one, could be part of one, or it could be a modification.
How do you figure or predict ridership?
Great question. Came up last night at the planning board as well. Predicting ridership is really difficult, specifically when we're thinking about adding a service that doesn't exist today for your community. So the best way to do that is to think about the land uses that already exist, what you're adding when it comes to density and options for mobility, but also to look at some of the people or the organizations around this region that are also operating circulators. For example, we talked last night, Wake Forest, their circulator, 2019, right before the pandemic, they were serving around 29,000 trips with their circulator. Their circulator is 16 miles, this would be 9 miles. So that circulator doesn't connect as densely to a lot of the population pockets. It's a little bit broader, but we could maybe expect something very similar. There's not an exact formula for that ridership, and so that's why we look at land use and we look at comparable agencies to see what the ridership has been in those communities.
Fair enough. Questions or comments from board members?
I'll just make a comment. I just want to thank town management and staff for focusing on this. This is definitely one of my goals. Find this because I'm one that oftentimes talk to people who are just need a bike to get to work, or you have families who come to Pine Acres who they share cars. So one family member has a car in the morning time, another one has in the afternoon time. So adding these amenities, and then even adding it when we're adding the community center in the north side of town, and just trying to connect the south part to the northern community center is going to be a big thing. So to me, this is a big thing for quality of life for our residents, and I feel like this is going to be great.
Thank you, Commissioner Haynes. Thank you, sir. Appreciate
Absolutely.
the presentation very much.
Thank you.
Next item on our agenda is the public comment period. At this time, the town clerk will call on individuals that are in attendance and have registered to address the town board prior to the meeting. The public comment period is a time for the public to address the town board about any matter that is not the subject of a scheduled public hearing. Those speaking are asked to begin by clearly saying your name and address for the public record. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes in order that all who wish to speak may be heard in a timely manner. Teresa, starting to call you Rose. Teresa, do you have anybody signed up?
Kristen Walliford?
Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you. My name is Kristen Wallingford. I'm at 114 Falcon Drive, Fuquay-Varina. I am a registered voter and a mother of 4. I come to you because 14 years ago, I registered my daughter for T-ball. And, sorry, I'm a little nervous. If you can remember back then, 14 years ago, FVAA ran our sports program. When the town defunded FVAA, it was very controversial, which our family found a little weird because we thought the town should run the sports program and the cultural resources program. So my daughter has since moved past T-ball and is now, she volunteers for the Haunted Trails and the Christmas Parade and actually the Martin Luther King Parade and celebration. So she's moved on, but I have 3 sons who are active in sports and do summer camps, and we are very active with the town with cultural parks and rec. So this past month, I went to register my kids for a chess club and also a flag football program that they loved from last year. And when I went to register for chess, I also noticed that there was a couple more programs that were interesting for our family, the Asian Pacific American History Month session and also an LGBTQ history program. So I went into active communities, registered the kids for chess. They're competitive chess players, so they're super excited about that, and it's right around the corner. When I went to go back into active community to register for the other programs, they were gone. Now, I'm a sleep-deprived mom, so active community sometimes is not my friend, and I thought, oh, it's user error. I can't really get into the program. I'm not sure what's going on. So then I went back into the town website to look for the programs, and they were missing, and the original program has the LGBTQ history session as well as the Asian Pacific American History Month program, and the new summer program has elephants. So I'm not really sure what happened, so what brings me here today is to ask the commissioners, the mayor, the manager, why those programs were taken off the offerings for our families here in Fuquay-Varina.
Thank you, Kristen, for your comments tonight. Have you met our Parks and Rec Director, Jonathan Cox, here tonight? They are. You'll see Jonathan. He'll be glad to talk to you about that program. And there, Jonathan's right over there.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for joining us tonight.
Appreciate it.
Teresa, do you have anybody else?
Tiffany Wagner.
Tiffany, welcome.
Hi, my name's Tiffany Wagner. I live at 644 Aiken Parkway, and I'm neighbors with Chris, and our daughters are best friends, and they played t-ball together back in the day. And I just wanted to let you know that this didn't go unnoticed. I support everything Chris is concerned about, and I just would encourage you guys as town leaders to please consider moving in a direction that you can support all of the residents in Fuquay-Varina. And this example wasn't shining, and that maybe in the future you guys could consider everyone that lives in the town. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. I also direct you to our Parks and Rec Director, Jonathan, if you'd like to see him after the meeting or when you have a time. So you're paying attention. Teresa?
Heather Lynch.
Heather, welcome.
Heather Lynch, 102 Park Avenue. I'm also here to support Chris and Tiffany. I actually work in a school as a teaching assistant, and these programs that are no longer in the Parks and Rec, I guess, booklet. Working in the schools, we have many, many diverse families, including the Asian families and the LGBTQ families. And I think seeing these families come up into our schools, I think our community needs to support these families and have activities for these families. And I think it's appropriate and beneficial and necessary for our community to support these families. So, as well as supporting my neighbors that are here tonight speaking. So, thank you.
Thank you for your comments, ma'am. Teresa?
Emily Holloway.
Emily, welcome.
Good evening, Emily Holloway. Good evening, Emily Holloway, 312 Andrew Road. It's interesting that I come tonight to talk about that building that's right there on the wall, the former library. And recognizing that my remarks will have little or no impact on the negotiated sale of the old Fuquay-Varina Library at Fuquay and Raleigh Street, I still feel compelled to give my opinion on this transaction. I've lived in Fuquay 35 years in the same house, 1 block from the library. I've seen so many changes to this town. Many are good, some not so much. Traffic congestion, loss of green space. And I was disgruntled last year to learn that a public parking lot would be built on the corner of Vance and Andrews Road, which is right where I live, thus cutting down all the trees and adding a blacktop parking lot which reflects more heat, gets real hot in the summer there. But the town did do a very nice job in its construction, and I was pleased that they tried to give consideration to the surrounding neighborhood. So I know we need more parking. They did a good job. Recently, I learned that a steakhouse will be going into the library space, and that some of the Raleigh Street front property was included in this deal. There are approximately 13 large trees on the corner of Raleigh and South Aiken Street, and some of these trees are over 60 years old. Although the map presented shows, at least right now, that they will not be impacted, can we be sure? There's also a lovely magnolia tree in front of the library that was planted and dedicated to the memory of Leah Moore Isaacson, a young girl who died in 1995. Will this be removed also? As the town seeks to become a Tree City USA, how will it reconcile any disruption to this well-used park? Will a grease trap have to be installed on the property? What additional parking will be added to alleviate congestion? Where will the large delivery food trucks park? Will there be a constant smell of grilled meat hanging in the air by the park? It looks like the shelter will remain, I hope so, but there are so many questions that should be answered and available to our adjacent neighborhood. I know and understand that the town wants to expand its social district footprint. However, this building was also desired by the Art Center, the Historic Museum Center, and others. Would it have not been a better decision to maintain a community purpose and venue in that area, even a DMV relocation, expand that? I am not at all opposed to a steakhouse, but a steakhouse at this site is not a good idea. There are other sites in this town which are more suitable to a restaurant of this type. I know the purchaser owns a Western sizzling restaurant in Dunn. Let's welcome him to build a steak restaurant elsewhere in Fuquay-Varina. So I just want you to know I'm opposed as a neighbor, as a neighbor of that area, to have that be changed to a steak restaurant. And I hope that even though it's a done deal, that some consideration will be made to possibly change that. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Teresa?
Robbie Lane Jackson.
Ms. Jackson?
I'm Robbie Lane Jackson, and I own a farm at 7221 Sunset Lake Road. Smith Farm subdivision was built off of the bottom left corner of our farm. It wouldn't have ever been built, but my father was terribly ill and dying, and I had to get some quick cash to get people to stay with him 24 hours a day. I have often sat at the corner of Judd Parkway and Stone Line Drive, which is the main street going into Smith Farms, and I've counted cars at night. I did this for a long time before Judd Parkway was finished, simply because people were already using it. But the people who were sneaking in using it before it was open were mostly farmers like me, who were trying to get their equipment in and out. So to make a very long story short, I never did get my stub to Judd Parkway, which was in our contract with the town of Fuquay. And now I think it's been 7 years and I still don't have a way to access Judd Parkway. We aren't allowed to use Stone Line Drive, and I had to put up a natural fence per the town's request, which I did, I complied with. So now we're at the point where after telling me they wouldn't take any more land for another road, we'd already given 3 sewer lines and 2 water lines around our farm. And that was like 35 or 40 years ago when my aunt was still alive who owned half of the farm. So now we've given Judd Parkway land. We've given all those sewer lines and water lines, which has been particularly hard for us because instead of taking care of the sewer lines, they've been abandoned. And now the sewer lines are falling in all the way around our 11-acre field so that they are ruining the creek. The creek flows a little bit now, and it used to have fish and turtles in it, and salamanders, and even the mushroom that was so famous that I've forgotten the name of was in there. So the Farm Service Agency told us we must, no matter what it takes, we must fix the waterway, that we could be charged thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars for not taking care of the waterway. We were told that we could not touch it once Fuquay took over because to touch the sewer lines or the water lines feeding the Kroger Shopping Center, now Harris Teeter, it's not our property. We still maintain ownership of it, but we can't do anything with it. So I'm here to make some sort of plea for y'all to come out and see how it's fallen in and how it's getting rid of all the fresh water. There are aquifers all over there, and they need to be preserved for future growth of Fuquay.
Thank you, ma'am. I'm going to direct you to Jim Seymour, who's our Director of Development Services, oversee the departments that look at our water and sewer lines and road extensions and things with that. He can be able to help.
Well, the
you
last
some,
thing is,
information there.
I just wanted
Ms.,
to let you know
Jim,
I'm
if you'll get her-
voting against anything I can speak against, so you won't take my dad's yard, our driveway, and his house.
Thank you, ma'am. Your time's up, but Jim will be able to help you with that information, and he will help you out, seeing if he can't help you out in that situation. Jim, thank you, Jim. Teresa, do you have anybody else?
Yep, Virginia Burston.
Virginia, Ms. Bergstrom, welcome.
It's here. I'm speaking here with you tonight.
Please say your name and address for the record.
Rhoda Ann Jones Johnson, Varina, Wake County. Folks have called it Barney's Precinct. The contemporary address would be Sunset Lake Road in the vicinity of Terrible Creek, or the municipal address 829 East Cardinal Drive, which I am the owner of. Good evening, Mr. Harris.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mrs. Gardner.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Smith. Nice to meet your acquaintance. Good evening, Mr. Haynes. And Mr. Mayor Massengale, good evening.
Welcome.
I wish to express my heartfelt gratitude to each of you who are representing my neighbors across Middle Creek Township, as well as supplying a voice for my great-grandchildren and great-great-grandchildren living in the extraterritorial jurisdiction of Fuquay-Varina. Incidentally, one of those great-grandchildren was just here at the podium. Very proud of her. I'm grateful for each of your contributions to the resolution regarding U5751, and I hope you will adopt it tonight, later in the meeting. I just have to say the wording of the resolution is a pleasant surprise, as I expected to be saying something altogether different this evening than I am going to. I want to say to the engineering team, that you have been most thorough in your review of the North Carolina Department of Transportation's proposed alternatives for U5751. It is most satisfying to see your statement of confidence for whichever decision NCDOT will announce in the coming weeks. I also wish to thank you personally for your kindness and patience with my great-great-granddaughter. She seems quite committed to an alternative that will enhance the connectivity of Products Road and is truly passionate about preserving my farm. I think it's best that I stay out of the roundabout debate and leave that to the experts. So growing up on our grandfather's settlement and then raising our 10 children at that home place, I must say I am most proud to behold So much of what I treasure in life is still evident in the community today. Neighborliness is such a vital necessity in the day-to-day of beekeeping, silk spinning, weaving, milling, and milking. Neighborliness cultivated affection and dependence between people and generations. When you pass this resolution, you will be expressing our town's value that champions all her residents' and neighbors' needs. You will also be expressing the hospitality that so shaped the story of this community. Welcoming strangers has so often been our stock in trade, be it welcoming new settlers, opening rooms to sharecroppers, freeing and affording generosity to once indentured or enslaved men and women, supplying accommodations for day travelers to take the waters, or opening our doors to hundreds of new arrivals as they make their start or choose to retire to this double-named Piedmont Pearl. So people could always do more than simply pass through this U.S. route and rural railway. You know, I had a great-grandson with a very popular gourd museum, which, with acceptance of this resolution, each of you will be representing all the people of this fine community. You're honoring their expressed desire for selection of a roadway that most effectively spares home, shields farmland, and protects nature's many good gifts.
Ma'am, I'm going to ask you to finish your thought up, please. Your time has passed.
Although you have other values with this, although you may have other values with this resolution, you're expressing commitment to honest democracy.
Thank you, ma'am, for your time
May
tonight.
I have one more
No,
paragraph?
ma'am, time has well passed. Thank you, though, for your time tonight. Appreciate you coming. Teresa, do you have anybody else?
Rhonda Ann Jones Johnson.
Okay. Teresa,
Okay, what about Virginia? Okay.
3 names.
That's all.
Okay. All right. Thank you. There are no items on our agenda tabled from previous meetings. Next item on our agenda are public hearings. Public hearings are a time for the petitioner to present his or her request and for the public to give input and voice their favor or opposition to the request. If you wish to speak and are physically in attendance, please step forward to the podium one at a time, provide your name and address on the registration log at the podium, and clearly state your name and address for the public record. We ask all those addressing the town board to please limit your comments to 3 minutes, or that all who wish to speak may be heard in a timely manner. First public hearing, item 7A, public hearing fiscal year 2024 operational budget and 5-year operating and capital plan. More information about this agenda item will be presented by Town Manager Mitchell. Adam?
Thank you, Mayor. Prior to this evening, we've had a public budget workshop that was in excess of 4 hours, where we did a deep dive and went into great detail what is included in the fiscal year 24 budget recommendation, as well as the 5-year capital and operations plan. Following that, we had a formal presentation to the board on May 1st for both the fiscal year 24 budget and the 5-year plan. The only modifications that were made to the budget from the budget workshop that were presented on May 1 were the addition of 2 additional police officers for fiscal year 24 that would be primarily focused and stationed on downtown patrol, as well as a $1 per month increase in the sanitation, garbage, recycle collection fees, which has been something that we have discussed in prior year. So on May 1st, the formal presentation was made. The town board scheduled a public hearing for tonight. On May 2nd, the budget video, which we're going to show in a moment, as well as the full budget document, which included the budget ordinance and the fee schedule, were posted on the town's website for public inspection and public review. At this time, I would like to ask Scott to, for the benefit of the public that may be watching tonight, may be watching after tonight, or that are here in the room, to play the budget video, which speaks to the content and what the fiscal year 24 budget entails. And then after that, I'll make a few additional remarks before asking you, Mayor, to open the public hearing for public comment. Scott?
As one of the most desirable places to live in North Carolina, residents and businesses continue to choose Fuquay-Varina to live, work, and raise their families. To support our expanding community, this year's budget provides the necessary funding to strengthen current priorities and create new opportunities to invest in our future. The town manager's recommended fiscal year 2024 budget was developed with input from citizens, town staff, and the town board's strategic plan to continue to create a bright future, one residents will be excited to be a part of. The proposed general fund budget of $57 million with additional investments in the capital projects and enterprise fund maintains the outstanding service that sets Fuquay-Varina apart, while also advancing unprecedented investments in water, wastewater, and transportation infrastructure to promote quality of life and secure the town's future prosperity. Fuquay-Varina is excited to make investments across our water and sewer system to ensure that the town has a reliable supply of clean drinking water as our community continues to grow. The budget funds $344 million in capital improvement projects that our Public Utilities Department is accomplishing in partnership with others to build a regional Sanford water treatment plant and conveyance line, expand the Northern Harnett County wastewater treatment plant, and expand the town's Terrible Creek wastewater treatment plant. To cover the cost of these historic investments, residents will see a 20% water and sewer base and volumetric rate increase, and developers will see a similar system development fee increase in the recommended budget. Investing in our future includes transportation projects. Last year, 6 road and 3 sidewalk projects were designed and all will be in progress by the end of the calendar year. These improvements include several intersection improvements, lane widening projects, and pedestrian safety upgrades. In addition, improvements to 7 new road intersection projects will be designed in this fiscal budget, with construction occurring over the next 2 years. These investments will improve mobility in our community for years to come. As the budget improves our ability to travel within our community, it also ensures Fuquay-Varina remains one of the safest towns in North Carolina by including funds for new police officers and equipment, a police telecommunicator and accreditation specialist to address workload growth and maintain community safety. We're also opening Fire Station 4 to improve response time and better serve the community. To improve the reliability and performance of the workhorses of our fire system, the fire engines, the recommended budget includes funding to replace all 4 aging fire engines through installment financing. The fire department apparatus plan will replace engines on a 7-year replacement cycle, significantly reducing the expense and downtime required for major fire engine repairs. This action will allow fire engines to remain in service to meet the needs of our residents. In 2021, voters approved a Parks and Recreation bond, and we're told a 4.5-cent tax rate increase for residents would allow the town to expand the quality of life programming and facilities available to residents by constructing and opening Community Center North. The town has completed the design of this 77,000 square foot facility, which will contain an active adult center, 3 basketball courts, and an indoor walking track, as well as other recreation and programming spaces. Construction is scheduled to begin this summer, with the facility welcoming the public in late 2024. To support debt service and operations for this state-of-the-art facility, a 3-cent property tax rate increase is included in the budget. The budget also includes money for the costs associated with retaining our already talented staff and recruiting new staff. Other new positions in the recommended budget include a new sanitation crew, new community center staff, and engineering staff to advance transportation projects. A special events coordinator is included in the budget to continue to expand the community events that our residents and visitors enjoy, and a position is included to better assist our fire department staff and customers. In addition to new staff members, we're also purchasing equipment necessary to fulfill our strong customer service focus and maintain service levels. The fiscal year 2024 budget includes funding for 4 replacement fire engines, a new pack rat mechanism in sanitation, a new tractor in the streets department, and new position vehicles and equipment in the police department. By investing in our future, we move Fuquay-Varina toward a brighter future. This budget provides funding to deliver the highest level municipal services today while making significant strategic investments for tomorrow. Our goal is always to provide an excellent quality of life for our citizens today and future generations.
All right, Mayor and Board, so since the May 1st meeting, we've had this video that explains what is included in the fiscal year 24 budget, available on our website for public inspection and review, as well as the full and complete detailed budget document. In addition, we have provided an opportunity for the public to provide input and comment through Let's Talk FV, our online community engagement portal. And since the proposed budget has been available for public review on our website, we've had about 13 public input comments. Just in summary, one of those comments takes exception to the proposed or recommended property tax rate increase of 3 cents. As this board is aware, and the public should be aware, we did pose a bond referendum on the ballot in 2021 for the construction of the new Community Center North. That referendum passed by nearly 75% of the voters, and that is what that 3 cent property tax rate is equated to. So there should be no surprise that that was a part of the recommended budget. And in fact, we were able to provide a tax rate that was less than what the voters were shared during that budget or bond referendum. Additionally, one of the other comments of the 13 has to do with the proposed increases to water and wastewater rates. As we've discussed in great length in numerous public meetings and public sessions, the town has several $100 million worth of water and wastewater capital improvement projects that are in the works, either through design or soon-to-be construction. These capital improvement projects address capacity, water quality, water efficiency, as well as wastewater treatment that are needed to continue to serve our existing customers as well as future growth in our community. And unfortunately, those projects come at a cost, a substantial cost that requires debt service to be paid, and that results in a rate increase. I am at least able to say to you that that is not a unique issue to Fuquay-Varina. You can't go very far in Wake County or even Harnett County or Johnston County to find a community that is not being faced with the need to increase water and wastewater rates for both customers and developers. We're a growing region, and we all have similar needs in terms of capacity and water quality and water protection. And so those are not uncommon. It is not uncommon that you would not find a rate increase of some variety in your surrounding neighboring communities. The other 11 are from residents in the Sunset Bluffs subdivision. I did provide you all these comments for your review. The Sunset Bluffs subdivision asking the town to give consideration to a future sidewalk on Herbert Akins Road in front of the Sunset Bluffs subdivision. Up until this point, we have not prioritized that as a significant need in the grand scheme of sidewalk needs in our community, both repairs and new sidewalk. There are existing sidewalks internal to the Sunset Bluff subdivision where residents can walk safely from one end of the neighborhood to the other, and connect to a sidewalk that the town did build connecting the subdivision to the Herbert Akins Elementary School and new Herbert Akins Middle School. So that sidewalk does exist on a leg of Herbert Akins Road. And so that is something that perhaps the board may wish to have further dialogue and conversation about in the future, but as of right now, that is not a initiative or a project that we have planned for in the fiscal year 24 budget or the 5-year plan at this time. And those are all the public comments that were provided to us through Let's Talk FV. Tonight, the board is being asked to conduct a public hearing for anyone that is in attendance tonight wishing to provide input or guidance on the fiscal year 24 budget or the 5-year plan. And then it is the discretion of the board as to whether you wish to take action tonight or wait until our first meeting in June, which is when we have the budget planned for board adoption. I'm happy to answer any questions that the board might have. Otherwise, my recommendation is to open, conduct a public hearing, and then close the public hearing this evening.
Any questions for management before we open the public hearing? Okay. The hearing is now open. Does anyone wish to speak in favor of the fiscal year 2024 operating budget and 5-year operating and capital plan? Teresa, do you have anybody signed up? No. Okay. Does anyone wish to speak in opposition to the fiscal year 2024 operating budget and 5-year operating and capital plan? I don't see anybody standing up. Teresa, I'm assuming you have no name signed up either? Okay. Hearing is now closed. A few comments for your management. You said that we have been openly having budget workshops, as this whole board knows, in regards to this budget, with these items being discussed for several months now. Our first meeting in May is when we first started advertising this, and this is where you got your comments from so far?
We've actually had Let's Talk FV with the budget available since since May 2nd, excuse me. That's right.
Okay, so we've been advertising since then.
Since
Okay.
our May 1st board meeting.
All right. You talked about a tax rate in there and a voter-approved bond. That tax rate is solely for the voter-approved bond?
That's correct.
And the voter-approved bond that was passed by 75%, the advertised rate, did I hear you correctly, said the advertised rate was 4.5%?
4.5 cents, that's
4.5
right.
cents, not percent, excuse me.
Yes, sir.
And that did I hear you also correctly, that you are delivering it with a 3 cents instead of 4.5 cents?
That is correct.
So a third less than what the voters approved?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What is the, and again, the voters approved this with 75% bond passing, so this is no surprise in regards to this
Should not
at all. Been discussed for 2 years. What is, out of curiosity, what's the dollar impact on a median house in our area average tax bill?
I believe that we calculated it, if it was on a, let me just pull this up in front of me here. The median tax value home in Fuquay-Varina is $280,106, and so this 3 cent property tax rate increase means an $84 per year increase in property taxes, or roughly $7 per month.
$7 per month. I saw a question in here, and I want to see if you can help me with the math. One of the comments that individual made was that this was going to add additional $1,300 per year. Maybe that's just some math,
That is
not
an
understanding.
incorrect calculation. You'd have to have a home valued close at $4.5 million to have an impact of $1,300.
You
I'm
know
not
as
sure how
much-
many $4.5 million homes are in Fuquay-Varina, but
You know as much tax dollars that would generate in our town, I don't think the average tax value in our town was $4.5 million
Yes, sir.
on houses. Okay, so $7 a month is what the voters approved, or excuse me, it's less than what the voters approved 2 years ago. Okay.
correct.
Any questions or comments for board members for management? Board members want to make any motions tonight, or do you want to wait till the next meeting on acting in regards to this? Any new information for management?
And again, the board is certainly in their purview to vote to approve it tonight or wait till the June 5th meeting. It's really the board's decision.
Not hearing any motions, we will plan on this for June 5th, is that correct? I hear no motions. June
Okay.
5th will be the plan.
Very good.
Thank you, management. Between now and then, if the public wants to provide any input between now and then, what would be your recommendations?
Email directly to management or board members directly
Okay, all right.
would be my recommendation.
Thank you, management.
Yes, sir.
Excuse me, Adam, Manager Adam.
I'll answer to it all.
Public hearing, next public hearing, item 7B, Water and Wastewater System Development Fee Analysis Report. More information about this agenda item will be presented by Public Utilities Director Wagner. Mike, good evening.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. This item is to consider approval of the water and wastewater system development fee analysis. Santec Consulting Services conducted a system development fee study for the town of Fuquay-Varina's water and sewer system, and that analysis is in accordance with the required North Carolina General Statute 162A, Article 8, and in accordance with House Bill 436, which requires the posting of the system development fee analysis for 45 days on the website for public review and comment. That was done from March 22nd through May 11th, and no public comment was received. Santec recommends that there's an increase of $882 to the water system development fee and a $641 increase to the sewer system development fee. In the drafts, that would increase the current water SDF from $3,030 to $3,912, and the current sewer system development fee from $3,250 to $3,891. And that would be represented in the, as a fiscal note, those increases are in the proposed budget. So tonight, management and staff's recommendation is a motion to adopt the water and wastewater system development fee analysis and associated ordinance to adopt the water and sewer system development fee as presented and recommended.
Any questions for staff before we start the public hearing? Thank you, Mike. Hearing is now open. Does anyone wish to speak in favor of the water and wastewater system development fee analysis report? Teresa, do you have anybody signed up? Condition? Okay. Does anyone wish to speak in opposition to the water and wastewater system development fee analysis report? Teresa, do you have anybody else signed up? Okay, the hearing is now closed. Discussion by the board and action by the board. Manager, I believe you mentioned earlier in our budget, and you said this is recommended in our budget, that memory serves me right, there's roughly $300 million in water and wastewater projects to be done.
That is correct.
There is a 20% increase that's proposed on our user rate.
Correct.
Separate of this. The users do not pay this. This is paid by development in our town.
That's correct.
So the impact fees that a builder or developer would pay, correct?
That's correct.
And that my math on these shows that these are anywhere from like 25 to 30% increase.
That's correct.
So that we're going to, it's a 25 to 30% increase. So we have had a rate analysis come back, tell us what we can legally charge, and what we're able to legally charge is a 25 to 30% increase. We'll have development community pay, and meanwhile, our rate users will be able to get by with a little bit lower at 20%.
That's correct.
Okay, making sure I understood that math a few minutes ago. Any questions by the board for management? Okay, what is the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Mayor, make a motion to adopt the water and wastewater system development fee analysis as presented and recommended.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item on our agenda is the consent agenda. What's the board's pleasure on the items on the consent agenda? Any? Bill? Ron? Marilyn? Anybody? Marilyn? Bill? Ron?
Mayor, I propose that we approve the items 8A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, and I on the consent agenda as presented.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. No items removed from consent agenda. Next item on the agenda, administrative report, item 10A, resolution supporting advancement of NCDOT Project U5751 NC55 extension. More information about this agenda item will be presented by Engineering Director Poling. Matt, it's your lucky night. We don't get to see you up here that much.
Good evening, Mayor, fellow commissioners.
So yeah, this next agenda item is the resolution for the U5751, the NC55 extension. This resolution, I guess, is a culmination of all of these. NCDOT has proposed that the U5751 project to enhance traffic operations in Fuquay-Varina at the US 401, 55, and 42 intersection. NCDOT has effectively forecasted traffic for all three proposed alternatives and are in accordance with NCDOT standards. NCDOT is committed to ensuring that all intersection operational improvements for the U5751 project are designed to an acceptable level of service in accordance with NCDOT standards. NCDOT has followed the guidelines set forth by the Federal Highway Administration to evaluate all human, environment, and economic impacts to the surrounding areas in the standard selection process. Town staff entrusts that NCDOT, through its standard selection process, will select the alternative for the U5751 project that provides the most benefit for the citizens of Fuquay-Varina while minimizing identified human, environmental, and economic impacts. And just as a fiscal note, the project estimated cost is around $110 million, and that includes right-of-way utilities, roadway, and roadway construction. And so here's just a quick reminder of the different alternatives. Alternative 1 is your orange. Alternative 2 is the green, and alternative 3 is the purple, which goes along Products Road. There's a closer look at that. And so the motion tonight is, or the recommended motion is to adopt a resolution endorsing the North Carolina Department of Transportation's standard process in selecting an alternative for the U5751 project. And with that, are there any questions?
Thank you, Matt. What is the time frame you see this road being built?
So right-of-way is scheduled for funding in 2028, and then we have right-of-way acquisition will approximately take 2 years, which will include utility relocation, and then after 2030 is probably when construction is going to start.
So it's realistic in 10 years from now to be driving on this. Less than 10 years. Less than 10 years, 7 years construction. 7 years from now, start construction, 3 years of construction. Hopefully not 3 years to build it. You mentioned a minute ago this is over $100 million project. That will be the largest single project that's been done in our jurisdiction in a very, very decades at one time. Correct or wrong?
Ever.
Ever. I'm going to go as far as say ever, but I'll go with that too then. How do we feel in regards to, we've heard at the last meeting comments from property owners that are all over around it, multiple property owners. Part of our comments to DOT is to take into account everybody's comments in regards to property, whether it's the north side, the middle side, or the south side, in regards to trying to avoid homes at the best that it can. This path you just showed us, from what I understand, these path lines are not exactly where it goes necessarily, but that they're going to we want them as part of this resolution to stay on property lines the best that they can and try to avoid as much houses as they can at the same time, or any property.
Yeah, that's correct. They're about at the 10 to 15% design right now, so there's a lot of design left to do.
A lot of things changed there. What has DOT taken into consideration the Sunset Lake Main Perfory intersection improvements we've done and what we will be doing to it?
That will be included in the model, yes.
Okay, so take that into account. We discussed also at the last meeting using today's numbers versus 7-year-old numbers on traffic counts and population growth we've had in Fuquay-Varina. Is that a requirement for DOT to take into account those types of things too?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that question?
Our road improvements that we're doing to Sunset Lake Road Main, that we've already done, our project that we're getting ready to start, and then also traffic counts on where cars are today versus where they were 8 years ago.
Yeah, they will take that into account, the traffic forecasting. And as a matter of fact, when they go into the final design, they will redo the forecasting for all the final operational improvements.
Because I think there's people passionate on all three routes, on which route they want. We want to make sure that DOT gets it right for those there's stakeholders that are around it, but then, or excuse me, there's property owners that are around it, but the stakeholders are all the residents of Fuquay-Varina that are looking for traffic to move the most effective way that it can. So that's what you're telling me. We believe with this resolution of support for DOT to find the most effective route, it leaves it for the professionals and not a bunch of politicians to pick and choose what they like. That's a simple way to put it.
Yes, sir.
All right, I want to make sure I understand, because I do believe the professionals need to be deciding this, not a bunch of politicians figuring out what they like. So, okay, and that's what we're saying right there. DOT, you're professionals, you figure it out. You tell us what's going to work, but move traffic.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and that is not listed as part of our 16 projects we're doing over the next 3 years.
No, it is not.
So it's a very nice project to come right after those too.
Mhm.
Anybody have any questions or comments for Director Poland? Okay, all right, I entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move we adopt a resolution endorsing the North Carolina Department of Transportation's standard process in selecting an alternative for the U5751 project.
Second.
A motion and a second, Ron second. Motion second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Matt, can you hurry up, email them that tonight and tell them hurry up and get to work and get us a road built? We need this road built as soon as possible. Thank you, Matt. Next item on our agenda, item 10B, Administrative Reports, Resolution 2023, Referendum on General Obligation, Parks and Recreation Facilities, Bonds, Intent to Proceed. More information about this agenda item will be presented by Finance Director Crabtree. Joanne, good evening.
Good evening. You all are keeping me busy.
We got projects to do. You're doing great.
Yeah.
Thank you, Joanne.
This tonight is a resolution for 2023 referendum on general obligation parks and recreational facility bonds. And this is the intent to proceed. Management and staff have identified the need for future investment in parks and recreation facilities due to community and program participation growth. Roughly $6 million in projects have been determined through the system-wide facility master plan as necessary to adequately address forecasted need. General obligation bonds tend to bring the best interest rate, meaning they are the lowest cost to the taxpayer and require voter approval. This is a list of some of the projects, and if you have questions in regards to the projects, I will ask Director Cox to come up and speak on those. And tonight, the management and staff recommendation is to adopt the resolution stating that the town of Fuquay-Varina's intent to proceed with the referendum on general obligation parks and recreation facility bonds for $60 million and authorize the town manager and clerk to take action to accomplish the purposes of this resolution. Anybody have any questions? This has given me basically the authority to go do, for us to go do what we need to do in order to have this referendum.
Thank you, Joanne. I believe, I may have a follow-up question for you a second. Adam, this came out of conversations at retreat, budget workshop, budget hearings, and then this is the next step to it where we've been discussing the board and staff has been discussing bonds and how to finance future Parks and Recs. Joanne, I believe you mentioned that this is the least expensive way to get stuff done, the least expensive way to borrow money.
Yes, and it also requires voter approval.
And requires voter approval ultimately.
And that gives the buy-in of your citizens, because to pay for it, typically there's a tax increase that has to happen in order to do that. So typically, general obligation bonds is the best way to go.
So kind of, it's no different than what we discussed earlier with our community center. When we built that,
Yes,
we advertised at the community, would you
exactly
like
the
a
same.
community center? It's going to
Yes.
cost you this much money. We said
Yes.
this, we brought it in for less.
Exactly.
So this is the same process with this right here.
Same process.
And the public has buy-in, or the public says, no, board, don't go spend my money and do that, and we
That's right.
do not move forward
That's right.
at that time. At what point will you, I know on the ballot, it'll be advertising the costs associated with taxes on there. At what point will you have information on that, or will that be advertised?
I actually think it's in the resolution. There's estimated between 8 and 10 cents
Okay.
for the projects, but we expect, like we did on the last one, to come in hopefully a bit less than that. As we stagger projects, hopefully with growth and other sales tax increases and stuff, that we will not have to levy that much in property tax.
There's also the unknown of property tax reval that could have a positive benefit on what the tax rate would maybe need to be at the time of issuing debt.
And we expect honestly, with a reval time period coming, we all know, historically speaking, property values are up from what they've been so far, so that should help reduce any kind of tax increase there, any grants that are gotten with this at the same time. And I think this speaks to what I mentioned earlier, every project, all the way back to, as long as I can remember, bonds that have been advertised with good fiscal management. You've had a big role in this. We've been able to bring projects in for less than what was advertised in the cost of that increase.
Yes, typically, yes.
Okay. I think this is great. Just to let the public understands what the money's gonna be spent for, what projects are there, and the public can solidify yes or no, the direction.
Exactly.
That we're discussing here
And
today.
Mr. Mayor and Board, we will have a more refined set of information available to the public later this summer that will include informational materials, tax rate potential impact, and the projects that would be potentially included in this referendum.
Any questions or comments from board members? Okay, entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to adopt the resolution stating the town of Fuquay-Varina's intent to proceed with the referendum on general obligation parks and recreation facilities bond for $60 million and authorize the town manager and town clerk to take action to accomplish the purposes of the resolution.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item, other business.
Thank you, Mayor. A few things I want to just share with the board this evening. In other business, bless you.
Bless you.
Give me just 1 second to pull this information up here. I did want to share with the board that the renovations here at Town Hall have been progressing quite nicely upstairs on the second floor, building out some of the unfinished space into new office space to accommodate the growth that we expect in new personnel. There will also be some improvements made on the first floor over the next several weeks and months as well. The contractor's been doing a pretty good job to keep the job site clean and keep noise to a minimum while we have staff in the building that are continuing to work. So I want to thank our Parks and Rec Director, Jonathan Cox, and his team for working closely with the contractor to ensure that the project continues to advance. I would just share that while our police and fire department didn't necessarily bring home the trophy this year in the softball tournament against other law enforcement agencies, they played their hearts out. They played well. The fire department reported that their softball team is improving, and that's a good sign as well. The police and the fire department recently had the competition to build beds for children in our community that are in need for beds. I believe that they built 45 beds. Is that correct? Last weekend. I think they were in a little friendly competition with one another who could build more beds. In that, maybe the fire department came out ahead on that, but they're both winners. They did well. So I want to thank both the chiefs and their teams for doing that good deed in our community. It's needed, and it's something that speaks to Fuquay-Varina being a dash more for our citizens. The employee litter sweep was a successful event. We had almost 100 employees participate in that event. I want to thank Matt and the engineering department, for Jennifer as well, for taking the lead on that and helping to keep our community clean and beautiful. That's a part of our responsibility just as much as it's part of the citizens' responsibility. We gave the stewardship award tonight, so we see that we've got citizens participating and civic groups participating, keep our highways and roads clean, but we'd like to take a role in that as well. Our summer camps at the Art Center are about full, and I believe they are full at the Parks and Recreation Department, and so there's a lot of interest and excitement around summer camps for
children in our community, so I'm happy to report that. Speaking of the Art Center, the staff is currently planning for the Fuquay Film Festival to be held in, this fall, so that's going to be an exciting festival and event coming up this fall. And we're also kicking off some expanded special needs programming to meet the needs of our community as well. So I want to thank Maureen and her team for looking outside beyond the normal set of programming to make sure that our community's needs are met. I would also say that our public works staff has been working very hard in preparation for the Memorial Day holiday that is upon us. And I would also just like to share that Fuquay-Varina, as well as hopefully all the communities in Wake County, are going to participate in flying banners for our Carolina Hurricanes. They have made it to the Eastern Conference Finals, and they've reached out to all the communities in Wake County to ask if we would fly banners in support of their effort to make it to the Stanley Cup and hopefully win the Stanley Cup again. And so we're going to show our support and pride for the great job that the Carolina Hurricanes are presently doing. I would also share that the Parks, Recreation, Cultural Resources Department is hosting the National Girls Lacrosse League tournament at Fleming Loop Park over Memorial Day weekend. We'll have 60 teams that will be competing, including 3 teams from Colorado and 1 team from Illinois. So we've got some out-of-state visitors that will be coming in to Fuquay-Varina, hopefully going to our restaurants and going to our shops and leaving some of that out-of-state money here in Fuquay-Varina. That's what we're hoping for anyway. Positive news out of our finance department: we sold bonds for the community center as well as for some of our transportation design and planning projects, as well as our water and sewer design and planning projects. And Fuquay-Varina, in its strong financial position, has allowed us to sell those bonds at a premium. So what that means is, in addition to getting the best rates possible, which are in the low 3s and even 2s, in some cases, 2% interest rates, additionally, we sold them at a premium, and so what that means is the town will actually get extra financial resources at no cost to the citizens of the town to put towards our projects. Several $1 million of extra resources, over $3 million in the bond premium. So our bond ratings are very strong, our financial position is very strong, and the bond market spoke to that when we sold our bonds this past week. Joanne, I got to give a lot of credit to her. She was very closely involved with our financial consultants, Davenport Financial Consultants, to make sure that all of our statements and disclosures were accurate, with accurate information, so that we had the best possible position to sell to the bond market. So thank you, Joanne, for that. The HR department is always busy, but they're getting ready to be even busier. Open enrollment for benefits for our employees will be happening in the next coming weeks, and so that's always a busy time for our HR department. And Karen, who was here earlier tonight, and Matt will be attending the North Carolina State University Job Fair on behalf of the town. So we're expanding our recruitment arm and trying to get more talent into this organization, and so we're looking at job fairs at multiple colleges and universities where we can explain who Fuquay-Varina is and what we have to offer. Let's see, make sure I hit on all of these things. The planning department has received submittals for the RFQ to update our community transportation plan, and they're going to be conducting interviews with consultants over the next week, and so a lot of interest there and our need to update our CTP. It's been several years since we have done a comprehensive update of that plan, and so we'll be looking forward to the outcome of that. And we've also had 5 proposals for statements of qualification for the Southern Oaks pump station and outfall improvements, and so we'll be evaluating those and ensuring that we select a contractor that most benefits us for that project. Economic development, the community engagement session for the downtown generational master plan will be on May 24th from 6 to 8 p.m. Here in the town boardroom at the John W. Byrne Municipal Building. McAdams Consulting Firm will facilitate this meeting, providing feedback on input received from the public meeting that was held in March of this year. So the public is invited to attend. Any board members that may be available that evening also encouraged to attend. That's May 24th in this room from 6 to 8 p.m. Let's see, I think I've hit on most of those comments. Oh, I also just wanted to share with the town board that recently I've had a telephone conversation, pretty lengthy telephone conversation with Caddy Moore, the superintendent for Wake County Public School System. We talked about SROs, but more importantly, we talked about the future of the Fuquay-Varina Middle School building that will eventually be vacated when the new middle school is being built. We have agreed that the school system is going to compile a core planning team for that. We will have a core planning team from the town, and we will work to schedule a meeting, a planning session meeting between the two teams sometime in June, early July. So I'll keep the board updated on that process. To this point, the county has made no decisions, has really not even revisited the subject of future use for that space since they came a couple of years ago and shared with the board that there would be a need for a future use of that space. So engaging back with the superintendent, who is soon to be retiring, so there will be a new superintendent that will be involved in this process as well. But engaging now to go ahead and get plans on the books for initial conversations and how we might be able to facilitate what goes in that building is a good sign, a good step forward. So I'm pleased to report that. With that, Mr. Mayor, I think I've addressed everything I need to share with the board from the standpoint of other reports that aren't on the agenda already. We do have a coffee with a cop scheduled for Wednesday, June 7th at 505 North Judd Parkway. Mama Gonna Snap is the name of the business that we're gonna have this this coffee with a cop at. And so we'll look forward to having that event there. Sense and Sensibility, a community theater event, will be on May 18th, 19th, and 20th at 7:30 p.m. This is a novel by Jane Austen, and it's adapted by Kate Hamill. And so if you have the opportunity, if there's even tickets left, I'm not sure, but if you have an opportunity to go Thursday night, check it out. Fuquay-Varina Chamber of Commerce, Run the Quay, their biggest event of the year, is going to be on June 3rd, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. And so we expect 1,000+ people in our community for that event, and I think it's going to be I'm convinced it's going to be great weather and just a fantastic event, successful event. Additionally, you have two first readings, a zoning map amendment submitted by Malden Watkins Surveying, 218 King Street, as well as a town code amendment for the land development ordinance. This is amendment number 23, CTA 2023-01, both of which unanimously recommended by the planning board last evening. So take a look at those when you have the opportunity. That'll be on the June 5th, I think it is, June 5th town board meeting, first meeting in June. With that, Mayor, I have no additional comments. I'm happy to answer any questions that the town board may have.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Manager. I know we do have a lengthy closed session tonight, so we'll make that statement before we go to town board member comments. Commissioner Gardner, any comments?
I'll be brief. The day of the,
my dissertation.
I'm not even prepared. Not this past Saturday, but the Saturday before, our town was so full of activity. It was exactly the kind of vibrancy that we speak of and dream of. There was the growers market going on. There was a craft fair going on. There was Heritage Day at the museums. There was a chorale concert. There were artists painting all around town, and the art was coming into the art center. It was an amazing atmosphere and the most fun I've had in a long time. I hope we see many more days like that. It was just, there were just families milling around everywhere. It was just wonderful.
Good time happening in Fuquay-Varina, that's for sure. Commissioner Harris, any comments?
Short comments, Mr. Mayor. This month is Mental Health Awareness Month, and I just wanted to bring it to the board's attention and just to have just a thought about the number of people who, because of dealing with COVID and other events, are suffering from anxiety and depression, and the stigma around mental health and mental illness sometimes presents a barrier to people who need help to seek help. And this month, the message is that a counselor can, of course, provide assistance, and if there's any stress or any challenges in life that where people just aren't able to make it, see somebody. I mean, mental health is real in our country. We see it all the time acted out. So just want to make that announcement.
Thank you, Commissioner Harris. Commissioner Haynes.
Just two things. I just want to personally thank the Public Works Department, especially the Streets Department, for the work they did this past few weeks at Pontiac Community Center. And also, I just enjoyed the employee luncheon. It was a great time. Great Pelican Ice. So, yeah. Yeah.
I mentioned that Wendy and the employee engagement team did a great job of getting that event planned. Thank you for board members.
Great job. That's right, Wendy. Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Haynes. Mayor Pro Tem Smith, any comments?
Just very brief, congratulations to all the employees tonight for the awards and recognitions. Makes it really easy to support all these salary adjustment studies that we do when we see the professionals that work for the town of Fuquay-Varina and serve our citizens. So kudos to all our department heads for your leadership to make sure our people are getting what they need to be all they can be for our town. Real quickly, I apologize to our employees that I missed the employee luncheon, missed the concert Thursday night, but my family was in the midst of a celebratory celebration start on Wednesday and then culminate to the weekend. Granddaughter got married, graduated from college all in one weekend, so we just couldn't make it. I had my whole family in and it was just a great time, but I do apologize for not being at the employee event because I always enjoy that, but maybe next year. That's all.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Smith. A couple quick comments myself before we do have our closed session tonight. Mentioned dinner on downtown earlier. Anyone that's here, hope to see you there. If you haven't bought your ticket, you're gonna have to barter a ticket with somebody because they are sold out. Garden Club tours, are any tickets left in that, Marilyn? Probably, maybe?
I do not know.
It's a Garden Club tour is this weekend, ma'am? No, ma'am. To that. First responders, we did at the Chamber put on a great first responders luncheon, both chiefs. I thought it turned out great. Hopefully your men and women in your departments enjoy that too. I appreciate the Chamber doing that right there too. So thank you, staff, for everything here tonight. We got a lot of great things coming up. Now we got a long closed session, so I entertain a motion for a closed session. What's the general statute, Adam?
The statute is.
All right, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Motion, do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye. Aye. All right, motion carries. We can take a very quick bathroom break and let's roll right into it.